Hello, everyone. How are you? We are H&D Abroad. I am Herman.
And I'm Dee. Welcome to our regular Saturday programming. We are live every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, sharing our move abroad plans in real time, the decisions, the psychological, the physical, all of the components that we are putting in action and discussing and rolling over. And this one, when I told H this was our topic for today, he was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be a doozy.
It is our hope through these conversations that we can help other Black couples see moving abroad as a plan A. We really enjoy building the community that we have through these conversations because it's helped us with making the decisions we make that we are trying to make to move abroad, to find a place that is best for us, as well as engage in a community that helps you find what's best for you wherever you are.
Yeah.
So if any of that sounds good to you, stop where you are. There's 12 people looking at me right now. StreamYard is talking to me and telling me on you. Go ahead and hit the like button now. Please subscribe to our channel if you're new, you're watching us for the first time, and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when we go live, as Dee said, every Saturday and several times during the week normally.
Absolutely. So just want to say hey to Tanya Brooks. Hi, Sam, from Black Women Build Wealth. Hey, fam, they are back. They are back home, living, loving abroad. Stephen and LaShawn are back home. And hey, Maya. So, y'all, I have been caught up. True confession. I've been caught up in the perfectionism trap. Trying to have the most ideal, the most in control plan for moving abroad. And guess what? I found out it's a trap. Don't do it. Many of us, so I am a part of the Exodus Summit community. Hey, Abix girl. So one of the things that we do is we form accountability groups. Our accountability groups are there to help you move forward on what you prioritize as important to moving abroad, traveling, embracing ease. So that is the community that I'm connected with that's helping me to stay focused on moving from my life is controlled by my corporate job, Black excellence pieces like education and having all the things to what I really need is a quality of life that I'm more in control of. I'm more in control of my time, how I care for myself, how I can afford quality healthcare that is really responsive to me. So my accountability group is called We Out. So literally these are ladies who have, many of them started the year on their way out of the door. Many of us are on the road or have just recently launched. And so as a part of today's conversation, I'm going to share what I've learned from these ladies. You all have met them on the channel a couple of weeks ago. You met Vera, who is in that group, she and her family left in December of last year. So when I say accountability groups are effective, I'm living proof that I'm watching people who have been in a community, have worked with their partner, or have decided within themselves what is a priority. And then they are taking action and we are celebrating them. And they're coming back and saying, I was focused on this, but I really should have been focused on that. Or, y'all, you could really leave with a whole lot less planned than you all are stacking up. So that's really what I wanted to share. So Lori's in the group. Ebix Girl is in the group. And I'm so thankful that they are sharing their stories. We want to share ours. That's what our channel is about.
I think what's interesting about this conversation for me is there are the obvious perfectionists. Obvious perfectionists. You have that. It has to do this. It has to do that. I didn't meet this time frame. We tend to characterize obvious perfectionism with goal setting. There are those of us, pointing back at myself, who are goal setters, but not in that obvious. I have lists, I have forms, but we have expectations that we place on ourselves that either are beyond expectations, beyond realistic expectations, or that we have some latent trauma about why we can or cannot meet it. Sometimes put out in the form of imposter syndrome. Why would I do this? Yeah, something I said to Dee yesterday. I said, one of the things that I struggle with is, would I buy from me the things I sell at the price I sell them for? It makes it hard for me to say other people are going to want to purchase something that I wouldn't buy. Now, I have to recognize that sometimes that's about how I see money and not the importance I see in things. I have invested in people, especially people of color, because they were people of color, and not necessarily because they had the best of the brightest. But sometimes I have the imposter syndrome of, it doesn't matter how much I like what I did, that doesn't mean somebody else is going to like it. And if I can't sell that, and you get caught in that loop. And in that loop of, can I make this work? Is it worth it? I can sell her stuff with my eyes closed. She can sell my stuff with her eyes closed. We can't sell our own stuff individually. And we've had that as a problem forever.
And what I think is important for us to say is sometimes we're trying to solve our own individual problems when we could be the solution for each other. If you're in a community, I can be a solution. So somebody asked in our We Out group, I'm having trouble decluttering. So decluttering is a recurring theme in our group. And so they were like, I wish I could have somebody come. And I was like, maybe that's what I do for my sisters is, look, I'll come back. I will help you. It's, what do you call that? Like an exchange. Help me and then I'll help you, or I'll help you. You come and help me declutter, because there is emotional value to the things. So I don't want to get too deep into our discussion for today, but definitely looking at what are the things, what are the grip points that you have felt were important that you could actually navigate with the idea of good enough. So we watched this TEDx talk by,
I just took it down. I forgot.
oh.
Hold on.
So we watched, I sent Herman this TEDx talk that I found yesterday about the power of good enough. And I mean, when it boils down to it, she was like, just do it. We have gotten, many of us, either because of birth order, we are eldest children. So, the idea of doing things well and excelling in whatever we put our hands on is something that is what do you call that? It's a value that I feel like was given to our parents. Why better is the solution to perfectionism. Sarah Pospos did that TEDx talk, and what she said was, just do it. Even if you're doing it at a small level, we are talking at my job about fitness and exercise. Stephen is our exercise buff that we watch in Ecuador. And, some people, I need to still 5 minutes, 6 times a day
Mm-hmm.
to get in my 30 minutes of moderate to intense physical activity. I may not have a whole 30-minute time slot to do that. Maybe, healthy eating is my focus. Maybe instead of trying to eat healthy for all meals, all snacks, all drinks, that I actually say breakfast is the meal that I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to do my meal prep. I'm going to, I'm just going to focus on this one thing. I'm going to do a little bit. I'm not going to, she talked in her TEDx talk, she talked about learning Spanish. Her husband is a native Spanish speaker. She said her children know more Spanish than she does.
Mm-hmm.
And she found a list from years back. And she was like, I've noticed that this learn Spanish has always been on my to-do list. And she was like, I have a Kindle. I listen to short stories in Spanish as I'm learning Spanish. That's what I can do. That's what I can incorporate into my day. And so I'm just saying, see, I'm telling y'all, you get on. Sometimes you need the power of positive influence and peers that will keep you accountable. That's what I think the power of good enough can get us toward.
This whole experiment that is H&D Abroad is proof of that for us. Because you've heard me say our very first video, we were standing in this kitchen. Was it here?
Yes.
Standing in this kitchen, holding the phone up in front of ourselves, talking to the camera. Our very first live was sitting in our studio, and there was 0 views.
Yeah.
We talked for 30 minutes, 40 minutes to a screen to ourselves. And this community has evolved. The intention was to reach out and find people who help us, give us ideas on how to look at the Move Abroad process. And we have watched channels grow around us. We have built community and been a part of a building community, a growing community that has helped us rethink and reorganize our thoughts.
Correct.
On the Move Abroad process. And I think that really, we had a lot of high standards on what was going to be, yes, we can move. We were hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings, conditions of the house, conditions of the kids. I mean, a lot of things that were really unrealistic in the time frame we were trying to set for ourselves in the Move Abroad process, as well as I think sometimes took for granted the fact that the unique part of our story is that we're still in the States trying to make our move. We aren't down the road. And so life is still coming at us from 4 corners. And
I think probably one of the most powerful things that is making a difference in our plan is that we are connected to people who have already moved.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is our goal, many of them are checking in with us, or we're reaching out to them saying, this isn't working out. The job is not dropping. I know for sure that I cannot take my work with me. And the number of remote from anywhere positions, I mean, just since we have been discussing this since 2021, I mean, it's a well that's gone dry.
Mm-hmm.
So that had been the linchpin for me, is if I can find a job. But y'all, the way these jobs be jobbing with their priorities, I don't know. That's not, and I want to say the perfectionism really was to insulate myself from failure. it was an attempt to try to control a ton of variables that really you can't even control if you never left.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm looking at, and she's on here as Sabongale today, but she is, we don't retire, we ascend. And I'm watching how she anticipated her retirement going. And I think she's only been retired for about I think it's coming up on 3 months. And baby, she out here doing all kind of other stuff on movie sets. And that's not necessarily the plan that she had in her mind as being central to what she does. And she's doing more of it, doing it. That's what I think a lot of our move abroad friends are saying is you're always going to have something. There's always, the money's going to be, shaky. It's always going to be, things haven't turned out quite as well. I've had Yolanda on our channel before, and she's sharing on Locating Cozy about, hey, I went to Spain. I had this plan of how I was going to become a resident, and I get on the ground, and now the facilitator, the lawyer, is saying, you need a little bit more of this and a little bit more of that. And she was like, that's not what you told me. So even the best constructed plans aren't going to turn out right. And so if perfectionism is the thing, if you're holding back because I need this to be right, I need that to be like at zero, a lot of it isn't going to be. So could you come up with a good enough plan, a plan that meets your basic, answers your basic why? And I think that's what I think I'm getting clear on with perfectionism is my why doesn't have a lot of requirements.
Well, the first thing we have to accept is, as the young lady said, perfectionism does not exist. There is no such thing as perfectionism. You can do the best you can and try to reach the greatest opportunities you have, but true perfectionism doesn't exist. When you put that into perspective, if she mentioned, you've heard me say it before, that social media, glow, everybody showing you the highlights of their lives that are going well. And the fact of the matter is the other parts of our lives, the things that embarrass us, the things that hurt us, the things that distract us, that break us down, we pull them to the side. And that controlling that is the first part of dealing with where we're headed to now. So
what we've done is we've taken a look at move abroad travel groups, and we're going to ask you to help us identify what could be the good enough plan for each of these things that people are saying are sticking points for why they haven't left. So one of the items that I see frequently is I can't decide where I should go.
mm-hmm.
It's a whole world out here. I mean, once you start getting used to the idea that I could be in one of 153, 156 countries in the world, like now I want to be everywhere. Now so I've got to pick the best place, the most ideal place, the place that's year round is going to give me good weather. There aren't going to be bugs. The weather is going to be nice. There aren't going to be any natural disasters. Do you hear how
you can get caught up?
Yes, before, I'm telling you, just choose Spain. I mean, just choose Spain.
I hear you. No. Yeah, and I think one of the hey, multifaceted me.
Yeah.
Good to see you here. I think one of the the choices that we've looked at in that process is, do we have to choose? Do you have to choose? Now, understand that personality and needs, that dictates differently for different people. When we were in a discussion with Lamar and Angela, the Martins, Lamar was like, I'm a settler. I need to be somewhere. I need to go somewhere where I feel this is my place. And again, if you're moving, but you still need to be in a recognizable, and this is the space I build on, then it does make that choice a little more difficult. But it also, in that, a lot of times, people who are settling know what they're looking for. They have very specific.
But what I have found out through house sitting, and Sabangale is right, it can be really paralyzing. What I have found is, I thought that there were some things, some components that were most important to me, but until I started massaging that a little bit, I'm doing that with house sitting. I'm now the list is kind of shifting to, okay, what I really need is this. These are the need to have, required to have, and these other things are in my nice to have sphere.
And this is where the community builds in again too, because I think for a lot of people, we have places that we've lived for a long time, if not always. And so we have a frame of reference on what living should look like, what our place should look like.
Right.
And we don't realize that there can be far more opportunities, far more diversity in the environment, in the people, in the communities that are available in the world. We're narrow. Our narrow view on what we want in the world is based on what we've been dealing with in small space.
But I mean, so in the Exodus Summit community, they're the bopping around, and I was just like, that just sounds exhausting to me at my age. But in that community, I start hearing people talk about slow travel. And one of the things that Dr. Linda from Tokende Travel, I learned from her is, well, we don't really get a whole lot of vacation time when you are working for an employer. And so the good enough plan for location for us might be slow travel. So spending, 2 weeks somewhere living like a local, or slow travel, which says, okay, I want to pick, I have done my research. I know I don't want to go to this place I don't want to be in southern Spain between June and September, because it's going to be super hot. So I can line up some places that I want to be when I have more time available, and then try them on for, a month, for 6 weeks. So I also we should have backed up and said this one first. If you're trying to get out the door with your partner, and they're like, one of you wants to move abroad and the other one does not, the good enough plan that I have thought through when we were in discussions was, maybe we could just travel more often together. We could try a few places, because the need for me is to see and be in a different place for a while. Those experiences just tap my creativity. They touch my sense of adventure. It's good for my brain. It's, I learn not just about a place, but I learn about myself. And if my partner is at least willing to travel more with me, then we can have discussions as we're doing that. What do you like? What is uncomfortable about seeing yourself in a different place.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not trying to necessarily bait them, but as you all saw, Vera was very strategic in her plan when we hosted her. We said, what was her Jedi skills for her husband was to just take him to a few places. And he got off the plane and said, this Panama feels like home.
People are saying here, you learn as you grow. Stephen LaShawn is saying that, they've been there 2 years and the plan is still growing even on the ground.
That part.
When you travel, even in country, when you travel with your partner, you learn what is important to the person you're with. You take for granted things because you've been in a space. Luxury Vagabond is saying when you've been in the same container, you don't, like I just said, you don't know what's available.
Right.
And when you expose yourself and the person that you're closest with in an environment, you get to see how and some people are going to not vibe well. And some people are going to say, wow, I didn't know this was available. We've had a lot of couples on here where they say, well, we went out to see, and then, the realization of the expansive boundaries that are the world, that are our opportunities.
Look,
change the whole mindset.
I am American. We don't get around without a car here. We just, there's no way, unless you live in the city center, that you can move around a space without having your own transportation. So Luxury Vagabond is in Houston. It wasn't until I lived in DC for a year without a car that I was just like, you mean subways, buses that are reliable, clean, that, hey, they were giving me with my job assignment, they were giving me transportation reimbursement. You mean like,
because that isn't.
I didn't know that there was reliable transportation in the world that was comfortable, that was
normal where
convenient,
we live.
Right?
Yeah, we can't catch a bus near where we are, and we came from a larger city to this city, and in that city, you'd have to go a minute to catch a decent bus that took you anywhere.
Right.
I grew up in cities where the bus was everywhere. The metro rail was everywhere. So it's a part of my environment. It's a part of my understanding. And so, I tend to be, as we were talking with Luxury Vagabond and a couple of weeks ago, I like to drive myself where I want to go. It's a challenge for me to say that my whole moving about is based on
rideshare,
someone else's timetable. But I've also recognized in doing some of these house sits the value of being off the road from behind the wheel during what are stress and anxiety inducing times. During rush hour, I don't want to be behind the wheel. I'm too angry. I just and when you come home and you've been on the road an hour angry, you change how you greet your family when you walk in the door, because you just brought the stress of the day amplified by crazy drivers, number 1 through 3,000, to the house. Those little things you begin to recognize there's a different approach to the engagement.
I love this one by Multifaceted Me, because look, there is a standard that I have. We love rough, tent living, RV, but I don't want to be I need to start at least my move abroad with some creature comforts and a low cost of living. And I'm learning where that is in the different places. I promise you, it does exist. Power outages are not a part of my move abroad ministry. I just, going without AC when it is 100 plus outside, it's just, it's not a part of what I'm ready to embrace. I might be able to move into that as my body adjust. But it's something Sandra said from Lack to Legacy. She said, when she was in Thailand, which is 12 to 13 hours, 12 to 13 time zone ahead of the US. She was still trying to live in the clock of the US. And when you're over 50, when you're over 60, like your body just cannot do that regularly and often. And so if you don't really realize that you may have a plan, but you don't really realize it until you are in those places. So being in a place is good enough for me, being able to be there a short amount of time, giving time for us to kind of figure it out together. And y'all, what have we learned? We can get on a plane and go somewhere else.
And Jay, my chauffeuring days are over.
look, what do they call it? Passenger princess?
Yeah,
yeah, I'm for that.
That's why we got the kids out. Abex Girls wants to go to Caribbean, but watching for the hurricanes.
Yes.
Location, we talk about location. But being from Florida, use as an example, Hurricane Andrew hit. I'll tell you how old I am. Hurricane Andrew hit the day we landed on campus at our alma mater for orientation in Alabama. So my folks literally came up with me. Hurricane Andrew hit at home. They were there with me 2 days. We got to the registration process. They left me in the registration line. They drove back home. It is, in all the years I lived in Florida and all the hurricanes that came through, we never had to evacuate for a hurricane. Now, in the time
climate change is making me say,
Hurricane Andrew was 1992. Okay, so in all the years since, many things have happened in terms of climate change and hurricanes. It's important to pay attention to that. But at the same time, the beauty of a hurricane, and I say this because we live in Tornado Alley, the beauty of a hurricane is hurricanes are coming well before they get there. But you know they're coming.
But also what I heard from Cartes when he was saying, talking about Merida. Maybe you plan to be away during hurricane season. Absolutely. I'm just saying, you can live your best life with a good enough plan. I'm gonna spend 9 months out of the year or 6 months out of the year in my heart place. I'm gonna be in the Caribbean, but I'm gonna be on dry land. I'm going to be in a non-hurricane. And what I found out is Panama is not prone to hurricanes, even though it's in that place. So maybe that's what you do.
Barbados is lower on the hurricane scale. But listen, that also applies if you live in Houston, if you live in Texas, if you live in Florida, if you live in Mississippi, if you live in Louisiana. You might need to have times a year where you head north. Just it's break time, because if it is an issue, you need to know where you are
and plan for it. And plan, what's your backup? If a hurricane comes, if it's hurricane season and I don't want to pay 2, 3, 4 times the flight rate to leave the island, what can I do to mitigate that?
Tell your husband that he and I are going on the trip. We just don't worry about it. And then wherever we are, he just don't know I'm gonna buy him a one-way ticket. You just meet him there. And he'll be all right, he'll adjust. Don't let him see this clip right here.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got folk that have family. That is definitely a part of the plan. I know we're still talking about location, but yeah. So I mean, having family in a place, can definitely reduce it. I know our cousins are saying, why don't y'all just come spend some time? We got a house. The kids are away at school. Like, you can try on a few places. Airbnb has opened up, Verbo, VRBO has opened up, ways for you to do it. Oh, luxury vagabond.
That's the word that people are putting out there. I hear where you're leading us, Jay, because that is a big issue I have found for partners in general who aren't a part of the initial thought process of moving abroad is I can, the Tyler Perry, I can do bad all by myself. If I'm already standing in a hole, why would I get out of this hole to go get in another hole?
Mm-hmm.
And Dee was listening to a podcast last night that was discussing people's interaction, African American people's interaction with in Africa, and how they were related to by Africans. And when you say if the people where I come from aren't always accepting of me, why would I waste time when I can fight that fight here, the devil I know kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
And something I said to my daughter, she came to see us the other night. She sat on the couch and I said, it's easy to, we talk about the social media, everything's great, everything's, that people present of themselves, but media, you get all the bad side. Everything is, if you're not here, you're going to collapse. You're going to become broke. The world is going to destroy you. You're going to disappear. The cartel is going to, toss you in this, kill you and throw you in the sex trade. There's all this negative. The world is going to self-destruct around you if you are outside the States. And something that I haven't said here in a long time is you have to touch these points for yourself. I worked at our alma mater as a chef, and during service time, a lot of times I would stand at the service line for two reasons. One, so that the sisters serving would stop giving away all the food to each plate, because mamas like to serve plates to the kids. And two, because the kids would say, I want this and that, I don't want the rest of that. And I would engage them in conversation. Why not? They said, well, I don't like that. Well, how do you know you don't like that? Well, 20 years ago when I was 2, I had it and I didn't like it. Or, my mom made that and I like it. And so I would say, I'm not your mama. We're different cooks. I made this, I prepared this. All I'm asking you to do is try it. You are welcome at the end of trying it to say, nope, still not for me. That's actually a viable reason. But you want it to be more than just one bad experience or one bad time in your life. And I'd make them try it in front of me. And a lot of times they would go, okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was. Or, wow, I really like that. And sometimes they would still say, yeah, I still don't like that. And that's okay if you continue to test the waters rather than just, that's going to be bad, so I'm not. And location is big on that because you can get caught up on, I'm never going to find a place. Travel in little bites within the scope of your reasoning. Dee and I don't have a lot of money. We can't just hop on a plane and go traveling. But we really look into the space when we're there to say, what would this look like if we were here?
Yeah. Yeah. We've got probably about 7 things that we've outlined. So money, income are definitely, if you are in these travel groups, these move abroad groups, people always ask, if you live in a place, what do you do to fund your life? Mm-hmm. And people are sharing some really creative things, whether that is teaching English online, that doesn't pay a whole lot. But some people are doing insurance that they can do. They write insurance policies. They work at universities. These are PhD level people. There's a lady that shared on Stephanie Perry's channel. She's an MD. She's a doctor. As well as what Vera shared. Vera's coming back to the States. She's going to work for 3 months and then go back. That just boosts the income that they have. And so people are coming. You have more than just, I need to get a job when it comes to how to fund your life. You should have, and this is the good advice that I have seen in the groups, you need more than 1 or 2 or 3. You need to have several different buckets that are funding your life, because if one starts to
Mhm.
You know, one starts to go dry, one well starts to go dry, then you've got some other paths that will continue to fund your life abroad. So that may mean income, may mean I need to be living on a sustainable budget. Income may mean I need to choose a place that if the US dollar is not as strong as it is today,
Mhm.
will I still be able to afford my life? If you all are not watching Cartes Ross and Move Abroad and Thrive, Cartes is talking about how he calculated people were coming in, um, coming to Mexico, they were getting 25 to 25, 27, 28 pesos to the dollar. Now we're down to maybe 16 pesos to the dollar. And so people's rent that was what they would consider to be affordable around $500 is now into the $600 a month, $650 a month. Well, if you have if your ceiling is $1,000, your ceiling is $1,100 a month on Social Security, you have to consider the buffer that's needed and the things around it. But as long as you have buckets, I'm going to say it right now. Yvette Boone is in this chat. I have interviewed her as well. When we got off the live, I said, Yvette, you are so good at options trading. Like, you are really good. And she was like, girl, I've been doing this more than a year. She said, but because I have more time, I can invest it in learning to invest, in learning to trade. So she has come up with another method. As long as now that I'll have more time, maybe I can do more things that can generate money that doesn't seem as feasible in the life that I'm living right now. I just,
I get it.
that income part really had me bound. And then I started getting in groups, getting in community, talking with people in my accountability group. Dr. Linda is always talking about, owning your own business, being a virtual consultant, a virtual coach. Y'all, we have skills that we have given to our employers. We need to learn how to make them work for us.
And that was the caveat of where I was headed. The corporate world is getting smart in relationship to remote work. The pandemic opened up remote work for most of us.
Out of necessity.
Out of necessity, but it proved that there were many people sitting at the office who didn't need to be sitting in the office. And so what we have found in trying to find random remote work often is that now it'll say remote work, but it'll say remote work from the city that the job is in.
Or the state.
Or the state that the job is in.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll find that it's remote because you're in the car driving around all day running errands. You're not actually remote. You're just not primarily at the
office. Yeah.
And so one of the things I wanted to push back towards that is what Dee was just saying. You have some skill. You have some talent. You have some ability, history, experience that opens the door for you to say, during these many hours a week, I am going to make money on my own. I'm going to put forth my entrepreneurial muscle. She's going to share with you. I see her holding her breath. She's going to share with you a post that she found yesterday that I think is really important. It was important to me because, again, I started off by talking about the imposter syndrome. I have never tried to be a white hat chef. That's not my thing. Okay. I love my chef jacket. I wear it because, I believe I believe that chefs are more than people who pass through the culinary school, more than people who learn the French technique, all that crap they keep trying to tell you that's premier. because there are a whole lot of little old ladies and little guys in various countries sitting on the side of the road with a propane tank throwing down.
With Michelin stars.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But I am proud of the skills that I have built myself. But when it's time to cooking is such a personal, almost intimate process that you can get caught up in. Not only am I worried about, are you analyzing my product? Are you analyzing me?
So cheat. Okay. So, I sew like on the, I'm going to do more of it later, but she said, Mondes threads, someone is doing more with less than you have. Someone out there is doing the most and has the least. But this was the clincher. Stop sleeping on your skills and talents. There are people out here offering mediocre at a premium price, and people are paying for it. Perfectionism trap is that mine has to be the best. It's got to be stellar. It's got to be without question. I have to figure out all the things. And people are saying, I learned this one thing and I'm selling it as I'm learning more. You don't even have to be, it doesn't even have to be at a premium, but income itself.
I run into that head first. She tells me all the time, there are people, I'm watching this video, and this was garbage they put out, and they got 22 million views.
Y'all saw me laughing about the dude and the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And he had how many views? It was almost 1 million views of people watching him make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And this man can cook. So I'm just saying, yeah. So the other side of the money is I'm not getting out the door because of debt. Mm-hmm. And this is a real struggle. Okay. It's a real struggle because if you owe, depending on who you owe, it can really eat into the money if you are trying to piece together a life, like those of us who don't have retirement income, don't have, properties that are funding our, or businesses that are funding our move abroad. There's going to be debt. There may be debt that you feel like might be eating into the earnings. And when I say debt, I'm also talking about your mortgage. Mm-hmm. When you're considering what your money looks like, if you owe a mortgage, then that on top of is what you need to be earning. So I think for us, we had to choose what debt was going to get paid and what debt is just gonna live with us until we pay it off. So medical debt, we might have to take that with us because I feel like every time I pay it off, there's something else. I had a surgery in October that, I was like, they're gonna find a way. They're gonna find a way. I done found, but a lot of these places is 0 interest. And as long as you're paying every month, I got a deadline. Y'all, I'm gonna pay off what I can, but debt that I will not take with me is any debt that I owe to the state, any debt that I owe to the city, any debt that I owe to the county, and definitely never federal debt. Mm-hmm. Whether that is, I don't take tax debt. I don't take tax debt with me out of the country because the feds can cut off my ability to renew my passport. The feds, if I get any federal funds, and this is because I worked in the Treasury Offset Office, any federal funds that I get, they're going to get theirs first. So I'm just like, if I want to be careful of who is dipping into my monthly budget versus do I have all debts clear? That's the perfection, is zero debts walking out the door.
Sam is making a valid point, and I understand. I think what happens with us, Sam, is that we realize there's always something else that comes up. And
but consumer debt, credit card debt, I don't take that out the door either.
There are so many things. So what we've had to decide is what is going to be cut off and what is going to be a part of the continued process.
Student loans?
Yeah.
You got student loans? Do not let student loans, because if you have federal student loans, you can be a part of the, it's IDR, income debt repayment. So if your income drops, which for me will drop, then baby, you get what you can get. For a lot of us, it's going to drop to zero, because we're not going to be making as much as we are in the US, because it doesn't take that much to live outside the US.
Yeah, Steve, going back to what we were talking about before, you can see it and say, oh man, I can do so much better than that. But when you are focused on what is my project, and that is where I am trying to get into. What is my project? What am I doing for me? I'm not trying to compare myself to what anybody else is doing. This is not a, kind of the what the Joneses are doing kind of concept in any process. What is this and how does it work best for me?
Come on, Maya. Come on now. Come on. Come through with it. Yes. Mediocre. I cannot remember what the saying is, but yeah, mediocre Brad. Mediocre Brad out here, not giving the best, not giving the quality, but they make it. Not only are they making ends meet, they're doing a good job. I twist balloons. I have made good money in those in between years, twisting balloons. People laugh. Balloons, baby, people will pay.
Yeah.
But I have seen people make dogs and swords and make the same money I made.
Look at multifaceted me. She had a thing with offering gourmet peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yes.
Man, you're making me angry, man. So Bangale, you didn't miss that, huh? Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
And I appreciate this. I mean, we really trying to, what's the whole picture? Debt is a big deal in the conversation of I'm going to pack up and move somewhere else. Is it going to, we had the conversation
sabotage.
with the aging grateful. Is it going to am I going to be saddled with this drama somewhere else because I have this debt I walked out of the country with? And you can stay here and piddle with it and piddle with all parts of it forever and always, because then you retire and then you got a reduced income, and then it's always something. And the funny part about it is we never want to be uncomfortable. And there are numbers as we associate them in this country that suggest discomfort somewhere else. If you tell somebody lives on $500 rent in most of the places we live in this country, 99.9% of us don't want to live anywhere where rent is $500 in this country, if it's even available anywhere.
Right.
Where $500 a month in several countries around the world is luxury, and the inability to make that mental transition about what's available. The flight costs more than the living in those places. And you make that transition, and all of a sudden your cost of living has reduced, and now you have and if people
are using this process to pay off debt. So because I can lower my expenses, because I can adjust my cost of living, then I've got more available to pay off debts. And just yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to decide. That's why having a plan, a good enough plan that I can just meet the bare minimum, and then we will navigate. So we talked about, okay, so if we take debt with us, then I want to have a stream of income that's there to just pay for that item. Okay. So I love the buckets. So who talked about buckets with us? Agent Grateful talked about buckets with us. And, just, hey, maybe I have a job that pays my rent. I have some income source that I'm using to, to make sure that this debt is paid and it doesn't bleed into the money or the strategy that we have put in place. But knowing that debt should not hold you back, but there are some debt you should not leave with, because the compounding of that interest with a credit card debt, it's not worth it, y'all. And please don't think, because we shared this in the conversation, I'll put a link in the description where we've talked about, will debt follow you? Credit card debt, you can run it up here and think they can't find you. What I found out was the US debt collectors have relationships with companies, debt collection companies in other countries. They will find you. They want their money. So please know, leaving doesn't, erase the trail of them tapping into your funds. And the IRS or the bank debt, they can get into any account that you have in the States, because think about what you give to your bank. They will garnish your wage. That's why I don't play with federal debt. I don't play with federal debt.
So Yvette, yes, those are projects that D is on me about.
Oh, next week. Next week, y'all gonna see it. Y'all gonna see it live.
And I said to you that I also may be coming to you for some consultation. So just know that. I'm laughing at and it's not just Brad and Josh.
Yes. So income, people are able to get an affordable amount. When we were looking at just straight out how much my student loans, when I had all of them, we were going to be paying over $1,000, over $1,500 a month. But who has time for that? That income debt repayment is a game changer. If you have federal student loans, please call your loan servicer and find out how to get into any of these income repayment plans.
Man, you just said a whole word.
Yes.
There's a Bible flipping somewhere right now. I mean, sometimes, and we've had this as a very serious part of our discussion, is there are places that we've discussed as desires that may not be our starting place, because our financial place might be one of the other options, and it becomes our launch place. So we're considering in that location and money, those first 3 titles that we talked about here, is what does our debt look like? What does our income look like? And does that can we find a location that helps us to balance our income to debt ratio?
And then we start there, and then we move toward Europe or somewhere else that could cost more.
Because again, we're not looking at the place as we're going to stay. And as we've broadened the conversation, the thought process we're looking for places to live instead of a place to live, it's really changed the conversation for us.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, housing. So we're talking about the perfection, moving abroad and the perfection trap. If you are live with us today, please like this video. Go ahead, like this video, because people don't recognize what a good enough plan could look like. If you are a homeowner in the US and you have considered, what am I going to do with my house? what we have found on this journey is there are 25 ways to either cut your losses, sell your house, have your kids move into your house, God bless us, and rent from you. Okay. They got to show a level of responsibility. You can do house sitting, which puts somebody in your house for a measured amount of time. They will stay in your house, but they're not in there trying to live, like bring all their stuff in and move their family and friends in. They are under contract. There are folks that are Airbnb-ing their place. So Airbnb, you got to have some components around turning your house over, making sure repairs are done and things like that. But that is an income generator for a lot of folks. I know Anita that I've had on our channel before, she has been doing this for years. And so when you are looking at what could I do short term, the renting to nurses and, other traveling professionals, if you're within the proximity of that. So people are only in your home a few months, then they move on. And so, or just out and out renting so that you've got a solution. The solution that would work best for me is do you want to be a landlord? If you don't want to be a landlord and have to deal with, coming up with, I need to be available 24 hours a day, if the water main breaks. Our neighbor across the street, their washing machine flooded their floor. That just like us, they have hardwood floors throughout. Now they have to have their floors, their baseboards, and cabinets replaced. I don't want to have to deal with that. And I'm in Malaysia. That's just crazy. So a property manager gives me peace. The good enough plan is one that brings peace to your process. Hey, if I'm going to be caught up, then that is an area I need to deal with before I leave. It can't be every single category.
David and Nikki saying that selling their house was liberating.
Yes.
Steve said that they were able to get rid of their house during a high purchasing price.
Yeah.
But hey, D is saying here, do a long-term rental. We've talked about that. Doing long-term rentals to like traveling nurses or long-term students, and because we've gone back and forth between that and
students gonna be in my house.
Well, no, we've gone back and forth with that between that and the Airbnb process. What is covered. It has to be something that works best for you in this process. Let's see. I'm jumping back. I pulled those and I saw those earlier. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. She said you about to make her do some offshore banking.
Yeah, hey, look, I'm just saying. If I had enough to put in a Swiss bank account, I probably would.
Watch for it, Maya. Watch for it.
Yes. So without penalty or tax. See, this is what community does for you. This is why you need to be in community. So yeah, and I mean, there are a lot of advantages to having an IRA, and this is definitely a new one. And new options are always coming available. But what are we praying for? Forgiveness.
Yes. Yeah. It's lower on the priority list.
But unsecured debt, baby, if you've been looking at those interest rates, 16, 17, 22, 24. Yeah, don't leave here with no payday loan.
She also said that getting rid of her house 10 years ago.
Wow.
And again, it has to be based on what process.
How does it meet how does it meet your needs? The house should not be the reason why. And the other thing that we've been liberated from is the house is an investment. We're saving it for the children. Baby, my kids many of our children do not want our houses. They don't want them. They don't want the upkeep. We live in a suboptimal location for our 3 young people.
Yeah.
They want to be in the city. What they want to do is in the city. We live in the country. Cows, corn growing at the end of our street. Like that's the living
Dusters
crop
flying
dusters flying over. That is the life we're living because that fits for us. We chose a house that works for us. That it doesn't work for them. Saddling them with that, being worried about squatters, living in an HOA where the people that are in your house putting you at risk of having a lien put on your house because of the HOA. I'm just telling you the realities that we're navigating. Sometimes
the people in your HOA running the risk of you assassinating them.
Yeah, don't say that on YouTube.
They so special.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So HOAs are definitely a deterrent. This is one that I think connects us to the conversations that we've had about parents. You know, I have my network of doctors and I don't want to have to find new doctors. I don't want to have to find new, or I anticipate having health issues into the future. We just had last week, we had Aisha talking about living with cerebral palsy. We've had Dr. Ramantal, who is the medical tourism RN. Their channels are talking about what is life like, navigating the healthcare, living outside the country. Where are some places that that's less of a worry, or acquiring new debt because I have healthcare issues that come up. Like health insurance is going to help you to be able to buffer that. But do I need to go to a place that I have the option when it's available? I'm going to get the insurance, but most of this I can pay for out of pocket. I can go to the emergency room, and for all of my emergency care, pay $150. All of I go to Nikki is in the chat. Nikki can have the doctor come to her house for $60. The doctor will come and do your assessment. If you need to go to the hospital, they are calling ahead. You don't sit in the waiting room. Your doctor has already called ahead. They are going to triage you and put you in a room if you need to be seen overnight. People are not going bankrupt off of needing to be in the hospital 2 and 3 days. $7,000 is what it cost us for a one-night stay with good health insurance from an employer. Y'all, 2 or 3 days we'll never get up out of that.
Never. Yeah.
Not on top of IRS debt and anything else. I just want to say the move abroad process could be a solution, but you don't have to figure it out. I have shared. I went in the Mexico City group and said, I want to see a so-and-so kind of specialist. People were like, I like this person speaks English. I had a whole list. I was able to find that person, see them. I reached out on their WhatsApp. They messaged me back, made an appointment. Within 24 hours, I saw them. Within 12 hours, I saw the next specialist. Healthcare is an issue. You do, as you age, we need a deeper, more connected set of healthcare providers. There are places where people that are 70 and 80 and 90 are living their best healthcare lives. They're living their best health life outside the country. But you do need to have a strategy. Don't leave the US and you broke down. You know what I'm saying?
Read the first part of that sentence.
Yes, that's right. The doctor drove them to
not
service.
Not they drove to the doctor. The
Quality,
doctor drove them to the ER.
She said, don't worry about I will take you. I'm promising you. There is nothing that you can't build when you are thoughtful, in at least the location part of the conversation. So, like I said, we have about 6 or 7 things that are on our list. Maybe you just need to pick the top 3. I know healthcare. I know, I know money. I know having a network of connections where if I don't know where it is, somebody can tell me where it is. Those are my top 3. I'm gonna work on those, and then we setting a date and getting up out of here.
He said it's faster to pay for it out of pocket.
Yes.
And Pinky was saying that she paid off all the other expenses because healthcare became a thing.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to avoid, all right. So I think this is our last one. I think, hold on. Yep. Last one is, I don't know anybody. Our daughter, my lovely, wonderful, beautiful child. We were taking a trip. I don't know. Oh, we were going to California. It's a family trip. Okay.
Do you want to go was the question. And her response was,
I don't know anybody out there. And that's like, you're not going to visit anybody out there. But it really opened my eyes, because there are a lot of people who that is their frame of reference for doing something new. I don't have anybody to lean on, to refer to.
My whole network of support, if the stuff hits the fan, I'm trying to be careful because we're online. Then I got, I've got mama, daddy, cousins, I can go stay at a hotel. I mean, like, I know the network of possibilities where I am.
But there is, D is here. I'm putting her post up here because it relates to the last thing. The Haitian doctor drove them 7 hours back home. D and the ladies down there in San Miguel, Charlotte Van Horn in Panama,
Jewel Wren
in Ecuador. And I mean, there are people who are on the ground who you would swear you've known your whole life,
because of the intent in which they create connection. I am an introvert, y'all. Or maybe I should say I am socially cautious. You know how I'm working through identifying new support as I go to meetups. I work through my anxiety issues, and I go and meet up folk when I do house sits. We just drove to Mississippi last week. I didn't know none of those ladies. We had a good old time. We shared a lot of information and encouragement, hearing other stories, learning how I can leverage the relationship with them with my family members that do live in Mississippi. I promise you, there are viable solutions. There are viable things you can do right here on the ground to figure things out. But if you are not at least intentionally putting yourself in expat groups, intentionally putting yourselves in solo travel groups, intentionally putting yourselves into community, it's going to be hard to see how can I have a circle of support. Because Adelia Aborshade talks about you need a person. If you go into the hospital in Mexico, you need to have somebody that's going to bring you some linen, that's going to bring you some food, that's going to check on you. You may have had to leave your things at home, may have even left your health insurance card. Somebody needs to be able to have access. We gotta come out of the trust bubbles that we build here in the US for safety, and for keeping people out of our business, to say, I gotta find a way to trust someone that I can have that necessary component. Somebody needs to know if I go missing, if there's a hurricane, if there is an earthquake.
Yeah, I understand. The behavioral health scientist in me understands that it is a challenge to make yourself vulnerable to people who you don't know, who you aren't aware if they have your best interests at heart, who you aren't aware of whether or not they're going to hurt you. You can live in a hole and hide and be safe.
Safe.
You can be safe. But you build walls around you that then make you unsafe. Because if something bad pours down, you got nowhere to run. Except there's inside the walls that you've built up for yourself. We're not talking about becoming, the next celebrity and meeting people. We're talking about expanding to some people who can help you say, hey, we can make this transition work for you. We can make this visit. I'll be talking soon with Kevin, the Melanin Man. And he talks about going down by himself to Mexico to visit. And the connection, he said, he is big introvert. And the connection he made with the people he stayed with while they were there was so close that when he wrote them again to say, hey, I'm going to come. Can I use your space again? They gave it to him for free. They drove him all over town. They introduced him to other, and we're talking about Mexicans. We're not talking about in the Black community. Mm-hmm. We're talking about just locals. We are global citizens. We are a connected people. When you reach out and make connections to people, you broaden the space and the experience in ways that it's hard to just understand in this conversation. I get that. But Pinky is right. You never know anybody until you know somebody.
And I have shared several engagement opportunities on our channel. Several episodes have talked about relearning friendship skills, how to introduce yourself to somebody, how to listen and ask questions, mm-hmm. and to recognize when you're feeling anxious and what to do about it. Learning how to look. If you have any kind of interest area, if you like, what kind of movies does Stephen and LaShawn do the reviews on? Those blaxploitation movies, that can be a point of similarity for someone. I love crafts, all crafts, crochet, sewing. I love all that. That's a connection point. That's an easy conversation starter. Mm-hmm. And then as you are in something that you're comfortable with, then getting to know people for being people, I think can be helpful in if you're unpracticed. Because I mean, most of us haven't had to make a friend since middle school, high school. And so we have to relearn those skills. And I think the Move Abroad process is good for encouraging us to expand ourselves. But baby, Stephen, yeah, thank you, Natural ID. But Stephen out here telling the truth about all the truth and nothing but the truth.
As a couple conversation. And this is, I think, a part of why we have added in the in-country travel as a part of our conversation.
Right.
And we're not talking about vacations. We're talking about going away for a little while, spending time together, doing more than seeing the sights and eating the food, spending some time together, because that's a big deal.
Learning something new together where you're both on a level playing field, where, you don't have this skill, I don't have this skill, but we're working together.
And we're also not tied up. We're not preoccupied with being on our phones, or we brought our work computers along. It's just us.
We watched The Amazing Race. Y'all remember that show? And I cringed because I was just like, I don't know if I could do that. That was really early in our marriage. And I was just like, I don't know. I would probably get in a funk. And then you were like, but we got to do this. And you're trying to deal with me and my funky attitude. And I was just like, put the funk aside, getting it done, and then I can, be in my feelings later on. But sometimes you need the practice to be able to see, okay, that we can't be like that. I can't. I've shared with you all how I don't like to lose money. I don't like to lose. Okay. And when they threw my argan oil from Morocco away in the airport, woo, I was standing there just in complete disbelief that that man was going to throw my $50, $60 argan oil in the trash can. And there wasn't anything I can do about it. Would I miss my flight for some argan oil? No. But I was so proud of myself because I recognized I had difficulty turning a corner. We walked from security through the first gate, and I was just like, can't do nothing about that. And I was not the terror of a partner.
I have no idea.
The rest of that trip.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But it was something I know I had to work on. And so I think the most important thing is, if you need to work on relationship skills, if you're taking your adult young people with them, maybe doing it in a different way so that they can develop a support network. So our son, our youngest, may come with us. I know what our housing needs to look like for there to be peace. I know he's going to need to be encouraged, like Tracy Collins talked about, need to be encouraged to find friends his age so that he can develop a sense of support from people who are also navigating being a young expat. Yeah. So, look, I don't like to lose money. I don't like it. I work too hard. I know how. Look, let me tell you how much of a penny pincher I am. I calculate how many hours did I have to work on my regular job? How many hours did I need to work to be able to buy that thing?
And you know what? I'm shaking my head. But to be fair, I think that mine is a non-verbal part of that. I think I have not done things, invested in projects and purchased self items because I'll say I didn't bring enough money home to do that. I didn't earn enough to be qualified to make that kind of purchase. You can walk yourself out of joy. A part of us starting this process, when our kids were younger, we had 3 kids, and when you have 3 children, babysitting services or here, we'll take the kids and y'all go out, because what we found a lot of times was our peers, their kids were younger, usually half as much than our kids, and they weren't ready to have 3 people extra to watch. And so a lot of times we canceled trips, we put aside vacations, and then we watched people who were struggling go on these great vacations to wherever for weeks at a time, and we're helping them eat, we're helping them put gas in the car, we're helping them, and we are like, we can do it. We can do it. And when we began this process with a part of the video we talked about earlier. The young lady says that her husband finally just told her, you need to just do it.
Yeah.
And so in this these risk aversive firstborn children, we've been throwing stuff on the fire.
Embracing the power of good enough
and saying,
doesn't mean that my plan is doomed to fail. I think what I'm learning from our friends that have moved is a lot's going to shift and change. A good enough plan puts you in a position for sustainability, to be open to what you know and what you don't know, and that your needs, your priorities will take you to the places that you will land, that will hopefully ultimately help you feel at home.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Alan and Greta, good to see you both. Uh, it, Jay need to teach class.
I'm telling you, it's so important not to say I can't afford it. Ooh, that's my life here. How can I afford it?
The change of mindset, because I think in a lot of what we tried to present today was it is easy to take the negative approach towards a process. I can't, therefore this is in the way, so therefore instead of how do I make this work for me? How do I take advantage of this in a way that does not disrupt me? Perfectionism is a form of can induce procrastination.
That is what she said in the video. She said most perfectionists are procrastinators because they're working so hard to get it right that they don't do it.
You got
those of
unrealistic
us who are
expectations.
who suffer with attention deficit disorder, and Alam has heard my laborious moans. I can't do it because it's not perfect. I can't move forward because it's not perfect. And that is a trap. It is a trap. It is a trap in your everyday life. It is a trap around being ready for the move abroad. It's a trap if you are trying to pull the trigger on in learning to invest, option trading. I don't need to be perfect. I need to know enough. What is enough? The basic things: how to get out of a trade, when to get in a trade. Have you done a little bit of research and investigation? Are you wagering? Not wagering. Are you investing a small enough amount that it's not going to cause you to not be able to pay your rent or to do the basic moves? I am learning. That is what I feel like the good enough plan does, is that I am willing to learn, that I'm open to learning, that my plan is malleable enough that it can take various forms based on my needs, the on the ground situation and circumstances. And even if we sold our house, we had nothing else left here, baby, we have already been looking at living in a tiny house.
Mm-hmm.
We've already been looking at RV living.
For years.
House sitting is working miracles. And we have just done the first 20 weeks of this year. 10 of them we have spent at somebody else's house.
Yeah.
Long-term house sits are a thing. They wanted us to come, the people that we house at for, they wanted us to come and stay 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a pet on the sit. Yeah. I water plants for 7 months, and I'm not going to leave the US because I'm scared if I sell my house. Baby, there are 1,000 ways.
The perfectionism is anxiety inducing and depression inducing, and it promotes inaction. Okay, so we are talking about, in the words of Nike, just do it.
Just do it. And that's what we wanted to come and say today. Thank you all so much for joining. We are determined in our own planning. Get in community. It is hard to get out of your head when you're not in community, when you don't have an accountability network that says, where are you stuck? How can I help? This process needs that on multiple levels, in a group setting, with individuals, with, if you are partnered with a partner, if you can find somebody, if your thing is my mama is here and I get with somebody who is caring for a parent and moving abroad. If you have adult children and you and your partner or you are considering leaving, get an accountability partner who has similar life circumstances to support. You all can support each other. Don't do this process alone. There are groups that are on. We've talked about how to find them. If you are a Black expat, there are Black expats, plug in country, plug in city name. You can find your tribe of one, your tribe of 50. And that this is not a space for I am the expert, that I know everything. I have planned out every contingency, because that's the trap. Mayhem will find you. If y'all remember those commercials, mayhem will find you. And you need to have a plan that's good enough to cover the edges as you build into that process, whether it's your savings and investments, your retirement, building your business. Alam is building a business right now that she didn't start until she left. So many people are doing this. Get on their channels, get in these groups, come back and visit us next week. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to our channel, because we're sharing it. Hey, Vet, look, my toes too. Stepping on toes. We all out here learning and growing together. We are rejecting perfectionism. We are embracing what it takes for real life. Last thing. As we were putting this together, I recognized I could count on one hand that I have done less than 5 life-altering things in my life without extensive planning. I was getting college catalogs in 9th grade. I'm that kind of planner. I don't want to make a move until I feel like I have turned it upside down, sideways, looked at it in the light, in the dark, do your Googles, do your research. But what I have found is that I have missed out a lot in life because I've waited for it to be perfect. I've waited for it to be the right temperature, to have the right amount of this or that, or to be well credentialed, and it's at 50, I'm like, you know what? I could probably start this whole thing. You think capitalism isn't going to have a job for me if I needed to come back to the States? Do you think I couldn't find somewhere to live? You don't think some landlord is willing to rent me a piece of space so I can park my van for van living in somebody's driveway for 6 months or a year while I figured out how to live life back here in the United States? Iyanla Vanzant said it best. You can always come back to where you are. Trust me, this merry-go-round of capitalism will always take your admission. I am ready to break free of the box of perfectionism and see what else is out there. Because all I'm going to do is learn is that didn't work. Maybe I need to try something different.
As they said in the movie, make it do what it do, baby. You gotta, we are always forward. Forward is our goal and forward is our momentum. Even when it feels like we're walking into wind, it's forward. This community, I probably won't ever end without saying how vastly important this community has been in our growth and our forward momentum in making choices. No, we haven't moved. No, we haven't decided on a place. No, things aren't all perfect, but you all have made a way for us to stay motivated.
Mhm.
The piano is leaving today.
I put in the accountability group and
Okay.
somebody's coming to get it.
And slowly but surely, because slowly wins the race. We are committed, and we are connected.
So let's do it.
It's good to see you all. We are H&D Abroad. I'm Herman. This is the beautiful D.
See y'all next time.
See y'all again soon.